Hello, everyone. Sorry about the snafu earlier, but we'll just restart again. I hope you guys can all hear me now. I'm here to talk about the Microsoft Copilot Dashboard. My name is Deepak. I'm a product manager on the Viva Insights team. I'll get started. So what's the Copilot Dashboard? This is a tool designed to help leaders who are deploying Copilot in their organization, to help them understand who to deploy it to, help them drive usage and adoption of Copilot, and then finally measure the impact of the Copilot investments that they've made. I'll start with this slide because I know most people want to know when this is coming. So we are going into private preview in February, which is almost here. And we'll be making it available, generally available for all customers in Q1 of CY24. So what is the Copilot Dashboard again? The three major areas that we like to help customers ask, and this is one of the most pressing questions that CIOs ask today, because Copilot is a big investment, and typically most customers, want to know who are the people they should deploy Copilot to, so they will get maximum return on investment. That's the readiness section. Once deployed, are my employees finding Copilot useful? Are they actually using it? The last part is, are they getting the return on investment? Is there a positive impact of Copilot on my employees? Now, we measure that in two ways. The first one is quantitative, and I'll cover some of those metrics that help you measure quantitatively what impact means, such as time saved. But we also, in partnership with Viva Glint and Viva Pulse, offer you the ability to deploy a sentiment and a survey out with your Copilot users, so you can get a sense for what people actually feel about Copilot and if it is actually helping them be more productive. So you get this holistic view of impact across the board. There is a reason why we put this in Viva Insights as opposed to some of the stuff that you would have expected to see on the Microsoft Admin Center. One of the big reasons is that Viva Insights has traditionally been the vehicle for measuring digital transformation, and leaders typically look to Viva Insights for creating a high-performance organization. And what I mean by that is we help you identify behaviors that characterize a high-performance behavior, a high-performance organization. And so in the case of Copilot, again, this is one of those transformative products that help, that promises at least to help increase productivity and engagement. And so Viva Insights is a natural place for this to land. Now, the cool thing that you get with Viva Insights Premium is the ability to do all the things on the left as a result of being able to upload what we call organizational data or HR data on employees. So for folks who know what Viva Insights is, one of the things you need to do to set up Viva Insights is to provide information about the employees. So as an example, my name is Deepak. I'm a product manager in the Viva Insights team. And I've been in Microsoft for, let's say, over 5 years. My manager's name is Dan, and so on and so forth. Now, with all that information in the system, Viva Insights helps you to answer questions like, which groups in my organization are using Copilot well? And then helps you do other cool things like, within certain parts of the organization, what are the behaviors for users before and after Copilot use? You can compare groups because of the fact that I now have organizational data. You can compare between Copilot and non-Copilot users, and in general, compare across organizations. And the same thing applies, everything that I talked about regarding metrics applies to sentiment as well. And I'll show you what that looks like. And so with the premium Viva Insights licenses, and I'll talk a little bit about licensing in the next slide, there's pre-configured adoption and impact reports. And as I mentioned, drill down against all the organizational attributes and survey. Now, in addition to that, in addition to everything that I will show you today, for folks who understand Viva Insights quite deeply, you should know that we also have something called the Analyst Workbench. And that is the real power of Viva Insights Premium, because what that lets you do is for select users in your organization who have trained in how to handle sensitive data. You can help them give access to row-level data so that you can do your own set of analysis on Copilot usage, Copilot adoption, and Copilot impact. And we do this in a privacy-protected way, so there is absolutely no way to identify an individual. But at the same time, because you have row-level data, you should be able to, as an analyst who is well-trained in handling sensitive data, you should be able to, again, do the same set of drill downs and group bys with a minimum group size and differential privacy built in. So that's the real power of Viva Insights Premium. In addition to that, we've got a lot of foundational metrics in Viva Insights. We help you also bring in your own data, and this could be anything along the lines of work mode. By what I mean is, you can look at who are your employees who are remote, who are on site, and who are working hybrid. You can now start to do cool scenarios like, what is my usage across Copilot users across on-site versus remote employees? You can bring in data about your sales team, for example, and say, are Copilot users being more successful in converting leads, and so on and so forth. And so that is the true power of Viva Insights Premium. And I'll talk a little bit more about the licensing in this slide. So for most people, what you guys might already know about in the Viva Insights Copilot Dashboard release is at Ignite, we announced what we call the basic version, which effectively provides this along the same categories of readiness, adoption, and impact. We provide tenant level metrics. And what I mean by tenant level is aggregate metrics at the tenant level. And so with the premium license, and I see that question just got asked, with the premium licenses, you will be able to get on a per user basis, which is the reason why you can do these filters across all these attributes. But at the same time, Viva Insights gives you row-level information without the ability to actually identify the user. We don't need to actually know the user, but at the same time, we add differential privacy on top of it, and we obfuscate the user's details. But you will be able to, for example, see what my Copilot usage is across, if I want to compare my HR team with the finance team or my marketing team with the IT team, right? We do provide that row-level data as part of the Analyst Workbench. Now, on the licensing side, as I mentioned earlier, the one on the left, what I say is included with M365. That is provided for everyone with a basic M365 license. Now, in order for you to get all the value that I talked about, the users need to be licensed with the Viva Insights Premium license. You can get that in three ways. You can either purchase Viva Insights standalone, or you can purchase the Viva Insights Workplace, the Workplace Analytics and Feedback mini bundle, which I think comes with Viva Insights, Viva Glint, and Viva Pulse. And you'll see why that makes a lot of sense. Or you buy the entire Viva suite, and that gives you, again, all the Viva modules. So that's essentially at the licensing level. And one thing I would definitely add over here is, in order for you to get the full value for this, and especially to create scenarios like compare my Copilot and non-Copilot users, we do need all the users to be licensed so that you can actually compare your Copilot and non-Copilot users as well, right? If you have your Copilot users licensed, then obviously you will be able to do a fewer things, such as just adoption along the lines of the Copilot users. And again, you can do before and after of just the Copilot users. But in order to get the whole Copilot versus non-Copilot, you would like to assign those premium licenses to as many employees as you can. So that's essentially the summary of the licensing requirements over here. Again, if you've got questions, feel free to ask, and we've got people on the community page, happy to answer your questions there. All right, so with that, I'll jump straight into the demo. So what you see here is the Copilot dashboard. The way to get to it is either by looking at the URL on top, which is insights.cloud.microsoft/Copilot dashboard, or you can just do aka.ms/Copilot dashboard. And that'll automatically get you to the Copilot dashboard. We have the right set of admin controls already built within the Microsoft Admin Center. So if you guys are admins and admins at the, what we call tenant admins or, IT admins, you should be able to go into the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, into management of Viva Insights, and then you'll be able to go ahead and say, add these users to Copilot dashboard. And once you add those users there, all they need to do is go to aka.ms/Copilot dashboard, or open the Teams app, the Viva Insights Teams app, and it'll just work, right? So it's quite as simple as that. So imagine that you've assigned the CIO in your organization the ability to access the Copilot dashboard. He or she can go into aka.ms/Copilot dashboard or to the Teams app, and this is the first view they'll see. And as you can see here on top, we talk about the number of Viva Insights licensed employees and also the number of Copilot licensed employees. And you can look at the details of where the overlap is and so on and so forth. So to begin with, we start with readiness. Again, at the very least, this is the stuff that we provide out of the box seeded version, which is with just the M365 license. So again, this is very straightforward. It's simple channels and licensing requirements. And I think it's no longer even an E3 or an E5 license. It's even more relaxed right now. So this is just giving you the ability to say, who is eligible for Copilot. And we'll be adding more features over here. And so you'll start to see more ideas getting rolled out here in terms of giving you recommendations on who to actually deploy these licenses to. But that's coming in the roadmap. And I see a question of, is Viva Premium is what used to be called Workplace Analytics? That is correct. We used to be called the Workplace Analytics team. Moving on to the adoption tab, this is where things start to get more interesting. So as the base level, again, we give you overall, organizational numbers, which is the total number of people who've used Copilot. What are they actually using it for? And when you click down and drill down a little bit more, you get to see what are the actions that they're taking and number of actions per user. And again, all of this stuff I'll be making available for you guys as well. But what's important in this view, at least, is this is at the organizational level. Now, what you get with Premium is what shows up now, right? So now with the Premium Viva Insights license, you effectively get to see metrics that are at the role level, what is called the employee level, which now helps me to aggregate things over here. So what I've done is I've decided to group by the organizational attribute. And so for folks who, again, know what Viva Insights does, once you deploy the Viva Insights licenses, the first thing we do is we extract organizational data directly from AAD, Azure Active Directory. If you've got high quality data in your Azure Active Directory, we'll be able to extract these three fields at the beginning, which is the organization field, job function field, and the level field. Typically, these are filled up and made available, and therefore the Viva Insights system can extract this data and make it available here on the Copilot dashboard. You also have the ability to go into Viva Insights admin and upload your own CSV of your organizational data. And we've also built the ability to connect directly with Workday using the Workday connector. Or if you've got other providers of your HR data, you can link to that through some of the generic connectors that we've built that link to Azure blobs. And so you can, for example, if you've got SAP or ADP or whatnot, you can link that data to your Azure instance, and then you can pull that directly to Viva Insights using an Azure connector that we've built. So now imagine that you've got all that stuff already set up. So now what you will see here is the ability for Viva Insights to pull all the data in here and allow you to effectively do group bys. And so in this case, what I've done is I've entered that Cecile, Mona, David, MJ, Kat, KO, and Callie are what I call the organizations. Within Microsoft, as an example, you can almost imagine me creating organizations like Microsoft Office, Microsoft Xbox, Microsoft Bing, Microsoft Azure, and so on and so forth. So it's entirely up to you guys to decide what actually goes into the organization field. And the job function field is again one of the more commonly used fields. This is the place where you would put something like engineering, finance, HR, marketing, so on and so forth. And level usually is used to denote seniority in the organization, and typically this is either are they an individual contributor, are they an M1 manager, M2 manager, and so on and so forth. But again, that is entirely customizable to your organization. So now imagine that you've done all the prep for Viva Insights. You will now be able to actually go ahead and do this analysis. And so what you see here is the group by organization. And then as we move on, you can see that you can also start to do the same thing across the app usage, right? So what percentage of people are actually using the Copilot in Teams and Outlook. And then finally, when you go even further, we will actually give you information on what are these actions that people are taking in these organizations when it comes to usage of Copilot, right? And the important thing to know here is you can also go ahead and filter on these attributes, right? So what you see here is the group by, but at the same time, you can also go in and say, I only want to look at Cecile's org, and I want to look at everyone who is an M2 and above, who are in the finance org. And then what that gives you is, and you can change the group by over here by whoever is reporting to Cecile. So you can do that, and then effectively what that gives you is any levels of drill down. So I see a couple of questions here. I'll quickly answer them. The current basic version does not hold any information about usage. Yes, if you have premium licenses, then that's what you get. Once you deploy your premium licenses, we'll be able to pull all of this information into Viva Insights, both on this dashboard that I'm showing you and in the analyst workbench. The second question is active user. Again, that's a really good question. And what you get today is any usage once in 28 days. But what you can do with the analyst workbench, at least, is you can customize your definition of active, because we can give you on the analyst workbench usage per day, per week, per month. You can choose the group by time period. And so once you have that data, you can literally go in and say, my definition of active usage is, they must use it at least 3 times a week, or so on and so forth. And you can obviously go do that for each individual app based on what you think the threshold should be. So that kind of freedom to build your own dashboard, you get with the Viva Insights Analyst Workbench. What you get with basic versus advanced, I had flashed it a little bit earlier, but I'm happy to, go back to it at the end since this seems to be a common question. But if you just scroll back, you should see that showing up. So I'll move on to the impact page. Now, the impact page is where it gets really interesting. And so what you see here are some of the common things that people use Copilot for to become more productive. So obviously the most common thing, the most powerful thing when it comes to Copilot are listed here. So you've got your ability to summarize meetings, your ability to summarize emails and draft your own emails. Same thing with chat and with documents. And we've also got things around M365 chat. Again, we'll start to create more metrics on M365 chat, but to begin with, it's just mostly usage metrics. Right, so I see one last question, and I'll continue over here. Am I correct in understanding that org, job level, and function are pulled from AAD? If you have it in AAD, we'll pull it. That's the default. You can override what we've pulled from AAD by uploading your own data. If you think that your provider is different, like I said, if you've got Workday and you don't actually have all this data in AAD, you can connect with Workday, and we'll start to use that as the criteria for filters and grouping. All right, so let me dive a little deeper into the Copilot impact story. So what you have here are 3 sections. I would say 2 sections. The first thing is, again, what are the changes that you see since you introduced Copilot in your organization? And so this is where things get really interesting. So if you look at this particular example that I've shown, the number of attended meetings, has it actually reduced as a result of using Copilot, right? We've picked metrics over here where we've done a lot of research with some of our early partners who deployed Copilot in their organization. We've also done a lot of research studies in control groups, and so those are the metrics that we've picked over here to show you. And so one of the things we did notice, as a pattern, again, it's important to remember that what I'm showing here doesn't mean causation. So you'll see that comparisons don't actually imply causation. So I want you to all be very, very aware of that. But you will start to see patterns, and we've seen that with our studies as well. And in a global team, for example, the number of attended meetings, if you've got meetings really late in the night, things that you would do typically was to record the meeting and watch the recap, or in the worst case, actually attend the meeting really late, right? Now with Copilot, we are seeing a pattern. I wouldn't say it is uniform across the board, but we are seeing patterns where the number of attended meetings in cases like this definitely go down as a result of the summarization feature. We're also seeing the number of conflicting meetings actually going down because people are actually able to attend meetings and say, I'm either going to be tentative or decline, but you can be part of the meeting and you can get the meeting notes from Copilot. Again, multitasking also is something we've seen across the board. The patterns that we've seen reduce mainly because of the fact that now you can actually be present in the meeting that needs to be, that is a priority for you. And you can always, go to Copilot and ask for action items on what happened in the other meeting that were called out to me, right? So these are some of the patterns that we're seeing. So what you see here is the more important thing is the system that we've created for you to essentially go do a before and after comparison. The second thing, which is again super interesting and which is a common ask from customers who deploy Copilot, I want to compare 2 groups, right? And so what we've done here is give you the ability to go in and either put in the group, like give you the ability to really customize the group that you want. And so what I've done here is I've picked the non-Copilot users on the left with the Copilot users on the right, and I've chosen the same organization, but different functions in the organization. And so what this gives you the ability again to do is look at, is there a meaningful difference between users who are using Copilot and non-Copilot? And so that again really helps you quantify the impact of Copilot. And then the final thing, and so if you use this as inspiration, again, what I would say is, if you want to build your own custom stuff, the Analyst Workbench, again, gives you all of these metrics at an employee level, at the granularity of day, week, or month, which means you can then go in and say, I want to do this group versus this group with this definition of active and so on and so forth. You can add your own custom attributes on the Analyst Workbench. So let's say in case of Microsoft, I've got a special attribute for cost center, for example, and I want to compare cost centers. That is not what I call a reserved attribute in AAD, or not something that you would typically show in an out-of-the-box dashboard. But using the Analyst Workbench, you can actually add that attribute. You can then expand that to some of the other stuff that you can do, which is if you want to bring in badge data and look at on-site versus remote employees and how they're using Copilot, that is something you can do on the Analyst Workbench. So that's what enables you to do this. And then I'll quickly also flash this in front of you guys, which is like a clear comparison between Copilot and non-Copilot users. Very clear, you want to take a screenshot and send this to your leaders. You can do that over here. So I see a couple of questions. The first one, in terms of org drill down, what's the smallest team size with personal non-meeting? Great question. Right now, the minimum group size for the Copilot dashboard is 10. And so any groups that have less than 10, you will not actually be able to see them. They'll be grayed out. And so the minimum group size there is 10. Is the dashboard available to us now? So it goes back to the very first slide. We're launching private preview in February. I don't think I have enough room for any more intake, but if you guys absolutely are interested, do reach out and to me, and we can see how many more we can fit into our private preview. But our general availability is Q1, so we're not that far away from making this available for pretty much everyone. The important thing to remember again is that it requires, most importantly, the Viva Insights premium license, which is again something I referred to in my third slide. And from a setup standpoint, like I said, if you've got good AAD data, it just works. You just need to go in and add users who should have access to this. And if you have good AAD data, one of the things we're also doing to really simplify this is we're making this available for the first 2 layers of the organization, assuming that they meet certain criteria. So what I mean by that is, in case of Microsoft, for example, Satya Nadella automatically has access to this dashboard as a result of him being the top of the pyramid in AAD, and reports under him who have a certain percentage of employees reporting, of the whole organization reporting to them. So when you actually go in as an IT admin to add users, you might see a few users already in there, and those will be the most senior leaders in your team. And so for them, all they need to do is literally go to aka.ms/Copilot dashboard, and it will literally just work. All right, so that is on the metric side. So what I mentioned as quantitative impact based on what we call behavioral metrics that we've built and we've understood from research and Viva Insights. But it isn't just that. We also help you to understand the sentiment from users on how they feel about Copilot. And so to this end, if you've got Viva Glint or Viva Pulse, we are releasing a Copilot template in both Viva Glint and Viva Pulse. And so what you get there, and I'll walk you through what that looks like, is the ability to actually launch a survey. And then once you launch that survey and you get the responses back, imagine that the responses have already come in. You will be able to see here the results for your organization, and you can compare that with what I call the favorability benchmark. And this is something that our research team has done as a result of running this survey with the exact same questions on a really large scale with some of our early enterprise customers. And so you get to see, for example, how you compare with the overall favorability benchmark for these questions, right? You can also see comments in here. So one of the things the reason we tried to do this is we want to present that holistic picture of Copilot impact for your leaders. It's not just about time saved in meetings, but it's also about how people feel. And as we continue to iterate on the quantitative side, you'll see metrics. We have a strong backlog of metrics that we're doing research on. And as we become more confident and we see more patterns in those metrics, we'll start to release that over here as well. But on the qualitative side, you have very clear answers from your organization. And so this also helps you understand heat maps of, again, on the same set of 4 metrics. You can do the same thing. You can group by, those AD attributes. You can, filter by whatever attributes you want. So that same power that existed with the quantitative metrics are also available on the qualitative side. There's a bunch of stuff that we're also adding here in terms of helping you understand how to actually use this, especially with Glint and Pulse. The last tab is what I call the learning tab, and this is the place where, again, we've released most of the research that we've done. So if you choose to, use the Copilot dashboard and, you've got your own ideas on how to actually run this for your organization, you can use these articles as inspiration. You can use these studies as inspiration and build your own dashboards on the analyst workbench. So that's what you see in the learning tab. And we're also going to be introducing something called the Copilot Academy. And the goal of that is to help end users understand how to get the best out of Copilot. And so we will be curating a list of resources, learning resources that you can then share with the people that you've deployed Copilot to, so they can get the best out of Copilot. We've also got some articles planned for what does a successful deployment of Copilot look like, from best practices from customers who've deployed, best practices from Microsoft, and so on and so forth. So that's essentially the Copilot dashboard. I have a couple of questions in here. Can we get the dashboard based on geolocation? I don't know what that means, but let me try to interpret, and you can always correct me, but one of the attributes that we will is the location attribute. So you can also do comparisons across, geographies and locations if that's an attribute you have in AAD. I'm talking specifically about the out of the box dashboard that I'm showing you, but on the analyst workbench, any attribute that you upload is there, so you can actually build your own template. The second question is, do EAP customers have access to the private preview? If you have EAP, definitely do mention that. That is something, it makes it a lot easier for deploying preview, because it means that you understand all the NDA terms and things like that. Are Microsoft Copilot and Copilot for Service connected? That's a good question. So for this particular release of the Copilot dashboard, we're solely focused on the M365 apps of Teams, Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and M365 Chat. We'll slowly start to add other apps in M365 as well, such as Loop and Stream and things like that. We do have a long roadmap of other co-pilots that will start appearing over here. So for example, Copilot for sales, you'll start to see that showing up, in our roadmap. We're also, working on integrating with GitHub and other co-pilots within the Microsoft ecosystem. So think of this as the one-stop shop for understanding all Copilot adoption impact and readiness, of course. All right. The last question. So to recap, you need Viva Insights for every Copilot users to get the correct overview. GA schedule in Q1. Yes, you nailed it. This is exactly how it is. Yep. All right. So I'll quickly walk you guys through the experience in Glint and Pulse as well for people who are interested in deploying the survey. So like I said, we've created a new template in Glint, which is effectively the Copilot Impact Survey template. And so as what we call an admin or a survey manager, you can go in here and set it up. And so from a question standpoint, it comes preloaded with 14 questions that our research team has done, out of which the first 4 are what we call the mandatory questions, for which we have those global benchmarks, but there's no reason why you can't add the other metrics, other questions as well. Once that is deployed, this is what your end users will see. So again, very straightforward, just 2 minutes, maybe even just 30 seconds to answer. When I'm using Copilot, I'm more productive. Using Copilot allows me to complete tasks faster. Using Copilot helps me spend less mental effort on repetitive tasks. And then finally, using Copilot helps improve the quality of my work, right? And so once your users answer these questions, if you have Viva Glint and either Viva Glint or Viva Pulse, all that information flows directly back into Viva Insights, so your leaders will be able to see it. And so on the Pulse side, again, very similar. There are a couple of things that you need to add, which is data sharing. So Pulse integrates with Viva Insights and it shows up there. But essentially, the setup itself is very straightforward, very similar to what I just showed with Glint, which is you go in here and say, add the questions. So this is the Copilot Impact template. You add the questions, you set up the survey respondents, the start date and an end date, and a personal note. And essentially what that happens, once you actually send the Pulse survey, it shows up for your employees in the email. And once they start, it'll be an experience very similar to what I showed with Viva. So that's essentially what we can do with Copilot. So I'll quickly go back to the question that was asked earlier, like what is included with Just M365 and O365. So this is what we call the seeded experience. So everything is at a full organization aggregate level. It doesn't require any premium Viva Insights licenses. And so what you get with this is, again, simple readiness. And then on the adoption page, you get the total usage across the entire organization. And again, the number of, users of each of these actions in the apps, and then the number of actions per user. And then finally, on the impact side, this is something we actually don't do impact metrics for, but rather this is more of what we call, potential time savings, which is more of a general estimate that is based on your organization's Copilot usage. And we just use a multiplier with the qualitative research that we've done with, time savings when it comes to Copilot. So this is what you get for just the M365 license. But as I showed you earlier, with the premium licenses, you get a lot more. All right. So for folks who've stayed with us for this long, thank you so much for attending. Again, very if you are interested in the private preview, definitely let me know. If you've got intent, just indicate to us, and then we'll be able to get in touch with you and definitely help you out. But like I said, general availability is targeted for Q1, so it's not a big waiting period between preview and general availability. So even if you can't get into preview, you're not waiting too long for it. With that, thanks again for joining. Have a great rest of your day.